The number one killer of teens isn't drugs or alcohol. It's car crashes. Teens are often ill-prepared and irresponsible drivers. So how can you make driving safer for your kids? It's easier than you might think. Just take an active role in teaching your teen how to drive a car responsibly. Parental involvement can reduce teen driving fatalities by more than 30%. These in-car instructions are designed to help you prepare your teen for the most dangerous activity they'll probably ever participate in, driving a car. Here's what you should be looking for in each lesson of in-car instruction. We will discuss proper procedures and techniques to use when teaching your student necessary driving skills. We will also give you tips on how to better handle certain situations. Each in-car lesson includes a printable checklist to guide you through each task to be completed during that session. You should check off each task only after your student has successfully and safely completed it. Each lesson also includes a minimum time frame in which you should complete it. Remember, these are minimums, so it should take your student at least that long and probably quite a bit longer to successfully demonstrate the tasks. So you guys have all experienced this firsthand. Do you have any recommendations for the parents out there?
Well, I found that setting a good example for Molly was probably the most important thing I could have done. She was watching everything that I did, so I had to make sure I practiced what I preached.
Yeah. By seeing my dad always wear a seatbelt, use his turn signal when making turns, and come to complete stops at stop signs, those habits became automatic for me.
When I first began driving, my father yelled a lot about the mistakes I was making. He didn't know it, but he was only making things worse. Initially, that was my reaction to Kim's mistakes.
And it wasn't helping either. When my mom yelled, I lost my concentration and forgot about the simplest things. Both directions look clear to me.
Check again to be sure, and then slowly accelerate into your lane.
It still looks good. This guy coming on my left is going to turn.
Whoa! What are you doing? Don't ever do that.
There are definitely better ways to handle the same situation.
It still looks good. This guy coming on my left is going to turn.
Whoa! Kim, just because someone has a turn signal on doesn't mean that they're going to turn before you. Always wait until a car starts making a turn or passes you before you pull out onto the road.
Okay, Mom. Sorry about that.
All right. Just try not to forget it. It could cost you.
See, there are effective ways to communicate without shouting.
Speaking of communication, I found it helpful to ask Adam a lot of questions while we were driving.
Although some of your questions weren't that great, Dad.
As you drive, I want you to tell me what you see around you and what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I'm driving 40 miles per hour, and there's a car behind me with its headlights on.
Is that a Dodge? The question I ask would serve as a distraction to any driver, especially young drivers. Make sure the questions are relevant to the driving experience and not distracting. What does that sign just ahead mean?
There's a stop sign ahead, so I should start to slow down.
Questions like that require the student to think about their surroundings while they drive and allow you to evaluate what they know and don't know about certain situations.
And what about distractions? You always stressed that when you were teaching me how to drive.
And he still does. But Dad just wasn't keeping me from being distracted. He made sure he wasn't distracted either.
As a parent and instructor, you have to avoid distractions, such as talking on the cell phone during driving lessons. All of your attention should be directed toward your student's driving experience. At any time, your student may encounter something they're unsure of how to handle. If you're talking on the phone, you won't be able to guide them safely through the situation.
You also made sure that I didn't have any additional distractions at first. Dad.
Just focus on driving the car, Adam. You can listen to the radio at home. Once you get more experience behind the wheel, then you can listen to it in here at a reasonable level. Like all teens, Adam was bound to listen to the radio when he got his license, so I didn't completely ban it. Teens eventually need to learn how to drive with distractions, but they should be worked into your lessons progressively.
And I wasn't allowed to have any passengers in the car with me during my lessons.
Well, Adam, you've got to show you're a responsible and capable driver before assuming the responsibility of protecting additional passengers.
I know. The last thing I want to do is make a mistake and put others in danger.
That's a great point, Adam. Us parents have a reason for most of the things we do, especially when it comes to teaching you kids how to drive.
I think one of the most helpful things my dad did for me was comment on the things I was doing well.
That last lane change was very good, Molly. You adjusted your speed to ensure adequate following distance behind the car in your new lane. Well done. Too many parents only comment on the things students do wrong when driving. Positive comments allow your student to gain confidence in their driving abilities and calm their nerves.
Sorry to cut in here, but there's a serious issue that isn't addressed enough. Drowsy driving. This can be as dangerous as drunk driving, yet is ignored by most parents. Make sure your teen has had adequate sleep before getting behind the wheel.
Yeah, if you sense they are tired, just delay the lesson a bit and let them rest. And make sure to give them breaks at least every hour, sometimes more often. Those breaks help keep them fresh and mentally sharp, as well as prevent them from becoming too tired.
Those are some great tips. Is there anything else you'd like to recommend to the parents out there?
I have one last comment about how to instruct your teen. The order in which you say things can make a big difference. Right, Adam?
Turn right up at the... Whoa! Adam! I didn't mean turn right away. I was gonna say turn right up at the next light.
When I heard turn right, I thought it meant turn right now.
And I learned to carefully give instructions a slightly better way.
Okay, Adam. At the next light, I want you to make a right turn.
Next light, right. Got it.
It may take some time to learn this approach, but it's well worth it. Your student won't be as likely to misinterpret you and make quick, unsafe maneuvers.
In other words, it gives us new drivers time to think about what was said.
I wish I would have thought of that technique myself. However, I do have one more little tip for parents out there. If possible, get your teen comfortable driving a variety of cars. If your family has a small sedan and an SUV, practice driving with both. In the interest of safety, make sure your teen can handle different types of cars.
And make sure you spend enough time in the car with your student before they get their license. Don't shortchange them in any way.
I had to go over each lesson quite a few times. Any kid that thinks they've mastered an entire set of driving skills after one lesson is delusional.
And it's the parents' responsibility to know this and continue to work on the same things over and over again, no matter how much the teen insists they know it. Make them prove it.
Molly and Mark are right on the money. While most of these lessons are timed for a minimum of 2 hours, you should spend a lot more time on them. Not only should each lesson take longer than the minimum, but you should be practicing each lesson multiple times until your teen has mastered the required skills. Also, while you could rush through this in a month, you should practice these lessons constantly for at least 6 months before allowing your student to get a license. They may not be crazy about waiting, but their safety is too important. Here are a few more things to keep in mind as you proceed through the in-car lessons. Before beginning each in-car lesson, watch the corresponding video from the main program as well as the in-car instruction video. Review previous lessons before moving on to a brand new lesson. Also, try to finish each lesson with a task that your student performs well. If they stop on a good note, they'll have more confidence going into the next lesson. And finally, although it may sound a bit cliche, your student needs to practice, practice, practice. It's the only thing that makes a driver an expert. The more they practice, the quicker they'll master the skills they need to drive safely, and they'll be less likely to be involved in a serious crash. We wish you luck.